Hello and welcome. You're watching Good Morning India. I'm Gargi Rawat. This is a show to start your day with, and the big story today, the crisis in the Rajasthan Congress. Will get you all those twists and turns.
And I'm Parmeshwar Bawa. Dramatic developments in Rajasthan, as Gargi just mentioned. We'll also get you the latest in the Ankita murder investigation. First, a quick look at the headlines.
A full-blown crisis for the Congress in Rajasthan after over 90 MLAs of the Ashok Gehlot camp demand the next Chief Minister of the state must be from the loyalists and that the decision be taken only after the 19th of October. They've also submitted their resignations in protest.
Last rites of 19-year-old Ankita Bhandari, who was allegedly killed in Uttarakhand's Rishikesh, were performed just last evening amid huge protests. The preliminary autopsy suggested injury to her head before drowning.
A complaint filed against the Assam Chief Minister and Sadhguru for allegedly violating wildlife laws with a late drive through Kaziranga National Park. The Chief Minister denies any violation.
Sources say senior lawyer Mukul Rohatgi has declined the centre's offer to return as the Attorney General of India, the government's top lawyer.
And a fire breaks out at the world's biggest produce market in Paris. All right, so let's take you through all the developments in Rajasthan and late-night developments amid escalating political crisis there. The question of the next Rajasthan Chief Minister has turned into a full-blown crisis for the Congress. Over 90 MLAs of the Ashok Gehlot camp are in protest mode and had a meeting with the Speaker claiming they want to resign.
An MLA actually told reporters, "We want Ashok Gehlot as the Chief Minister," indicating that they are expecting concessions from the centre leadership on the one-man, one-post issue. The alternative is a Gehlot loyalist in the top post instead of the Chief Minister's arch-rival Sachin Pilot, said to be the central leader's choice.
Now, sources say the party high command is extremely upset with this rebellion, and party chief Sonia Gandhi has tasked the central leaders with resolving the issue, and they will have one-on-one meetings with the MLAs. The Gehlot camp has basically two demands. The next Chief Minister should be from the group of loyalists who helped save the government in 2020 when Pilot had attempted a coup, and that the decision should be taken only after the 19th of October when the Congress president will be announced. So let's go across to our reporters, Harsha joining us on the phone line and Sunil Prabhu joining us from here in Delhi.
Right. Harsha, take us through all the developments since yesterday evening when the MLAs were to meet.
Well, yes, actually, it was supposed to be supposed to be smooth sailing. No one really expected this entire twist and tail, so to speak. And what exactly happened was that the CLP was scheduled for 7 p.m. Everybody was supposed to meet at the Chief Minister's residence. And it was expected that they would pass a one-line resolution saying that they leave the choice of the next Chief Minister to the party high command. And of course, it was supposed to be Mr. Ashok Gehlot's farewell in the sense that he would tell them that he was running for president, taking on new responsibilities. But actually, things just didn't go according to script. MLAs slowly, instead of trickling into the Chief Minister's residence for the Congress Legislature Party meeting, started instead gathering at the house of Shanti Dhariwal, who is the Parliamentary Affairs Minister and a close confidant of the Chief Minister. And then the numbers kept increasing. It almost reached about 87 plus. Finally, the claim of the Gehlot camp is 9 support, who then, instead of going to the Chief Minister's residence, went to the Speaker and said they would like to resign. After that, the standoff continued for a bit. Mr. Ashok Gehlot went to the Marriott to meet Ajay Makan and Kharge, and then all of them came back to the Chief Minister's residence. Mr. Pilot also went there. There was a meeting which went on actually well past midnight at the Chief Minister's residence. The MLAs in the meantime stayed put at the Speaker's residence. And then a small delegation of MLAs went to meet Kharge and Makan, told them that they don't want any CLP till October 19th, till the presidential elections are over, and that the Chief Minister has to be from the 102 loyalists who stood by the government in the 2020 rebellion. After that, the Congress High Command was reportedly actually keen to have a meeting and meet MLAs at night, but they all went back home. So we are expecting that the MLAs will be called in to meet Mr. Makan today, and then the CLP, if it happens at all, unlikely that it could come around today, but that's how it's going to play out. First, Mr. Makan and Mr. Kharge will have to meet the MLAs one-to-one and then take it from there.
All right, let's go across to Sunil for more. And Sunil, so, clearly this was something Mr. Gehlot had thought out, and he'd come to Delhi and had meetings also with Sonia Gandhi. But this is something the Congress leadership was clearly not giving to him. He's, however, told them that nothing is in his hands. It's his MLAs who are upset.
Well, you have to read between the lines, Gargi. You must understand a veteran like Mr. Ashok Gehlot definitely wants to send a message loud and clear, and in particular to Sachin Pilot, that he is not going to give it to him on a platter. Giving up the Chief Minister's post is something that is a difficult decision, but while he will give it up for the post of the Congress President, for which he is going to contest now, the issue is that the views of the MLAs need to be ascertained. And that's what the High Command has asked the two observers, Mr. Kharge as well as Mr. Ajay Makan, to ascertain the views of the MLAs. It's not going to be easy. And as is pointed out by Harsha, there are nearly 90 MLAs who have exercised their viewpoint, which cannot be ignored. These are clearly, you call it a pressure tactic, or you call it an attempt to send a message, but definitely they want to see one way or the other that whoever becomes the Chief Minister must have the support of the incoming Congress President, in this case Mr. Ashok Gehlot, when he does contest the election, and really not somebody who's going to be inimical. As you are well aware, the High Command has always followed, and yes, as Harsha is pointing out, it hasn't gone as per script, but they will always, and this has been Sonia Gandhi's USP, to get the views of the MLAs before deciding on a particular candidate. Yes, Mr. Sachin Pilot has been keen to become Chief Minister. He has made no bones about it, not once, but at least 3 or 4 times. But of course, those incidents that have taken place make those MLAs try to put in pressure, and this is of course at the behest of Mr. Ashok Gehlot, and definitely all this will have to be taken into account, but definitely for Sonia Gandhi it's a difficult situation, but she will wait for that report to be given by the MLAs, where one by one each MLA will be asked to give their choice to Mr. Kharge as well as Mr. Ajay Makan before a final decision is taken on who will be the next Chief Minister of Rajasthan.
Right, and Sunil, this is obviously an issue that has to be resolved quickly, because it's like a huge embarrassment as well to the Congress, especially, and we know Rahul Gandhi started his Bharat Jodo Yatra this morning. He's, set out. So at a time he's doing that, and the BJP is poking fun, and they're saying first Jodo your own party, and they've shared that picture, that famous picture of Rahul Gandhi with Sachin Pilot and Ashok Gehlot, and talked about Jodo your leaders first. So clearly this is something they have to resolve quickly.
That's right. I mean, there's no doubt about the fact that you have to have a unity, and this has been the biggest problem for the Congress party, be it in Rajasthan or be it in Madhya Pradesh. This has been their issue, and that is why they lost the state of Madhya Pradesh. In Rajasthan, because the numbers are much higher, it's been difficult for the BJP to do Operation Lotus, which they've done state after state. But definitely for the Congress, as you rightly pointed out, there is a sense of urgency to show unity of forces ahead of the 2023 elections. But definitely the big question mark, of course, at present is will they be able to forge that unity, given the fact that both Mr. Sachin Pilot and Ashok Gehlot are putting pressure on the High Command.
Right, and this as Rahul Gandhi is set to enter Karnataka, where also the Congress is facing, these divisions in its top leadership there. But thank you so much, Sunil, for joining us with the very latest.
And Gargi, as Rajasthan Congress continues to reel under the crisis, Nitish Kumar and Lalu Prasad Yadav met Congress chief Sonia Gandhi after 6 long years. The Mahagathbandhan allies aim to form a united opposition along with the Congress to contest the 2024 Lok Sabha polls. And Sonia Gandhi has apparently sent positive vibes.
But there was a rider, and the opposition unity project, she said, can only be taken forward after the Congress presidential elections. And for that, remember, they want Ashok Gehlot to contest, and it's speculated that he is set to become the Congress president. So there you can see after that meeting, so after 6 long years, Nitish Kumar and Lalu Prasad meeting with Sonia Gandhi.
देखिए, हम लोग दोनों लोग एक साथ बैठ करके मैडम से बातचीत किए हैं, तो आप लोग जानते ही है ना कि हम लोगों का विचार है कि देश में अनेक दलों को एकजुट होना है और मिल करके देश के लिए आगे काम करना है, इसकी प्रगति के लिए काम करना है। तो इन सब चीजों पर हम लोग बातचीत कर रहे थे।
All right, with that.
The last rites of the 19-year-old Ankita Bhandari, who was killed by being pushed into a canal in Uttarakhand's Rishikesh, were performed last evening amid huge protests and outrage.
That's right. You can see those protests in Uttarakhand's Srinagar. Now, Ankita was an employee at a resort owned by a former BJP leader, Vinod Arya's son, Pulkit Arya, and her body was recovered from the Chila barrage on Saturday morning. Pulkit and 2 other employees of the resort have been arrested in the case.
My colleague Akshay Dongre joins us live from Srinagar, Uttarakhand. Akshay, the draft report released by AIIMS Rishikesh said injuries before death have been found on Ankita's body, suggesting of a blunt force trauma. But the preliminary report stated that she died of drowning. When is the post-mortem report expected? And the parents were clearly very upset and huge protests yesterday.
Well, we are right now in Srinagar, Podi, and yesterday what we saw was a series of protests, series of confrontation between the protesters and the police officials who were trying for the cremation process to start as soon as possible to diffuse the tensions in the area. However, the protesters were not willing to let the police officials, in fact, take the mortal remains of Ankita Bhandari to the crematorium ground from the mortuary, because they knew that as soon as the cremation takes place, the police and the administration will sort of just backtrack on the promises that they were making as far as justice is concerned. However, when we talk about the post-mortem report, according to the district magistrate and according to the modus operandi, the post-mortem report cannot be made public. It is always given to the court in a sealed envelope, and that is the set procedure. However, we have seen that in such sensitive cases, many a times the post-mortem report gets leaked. It is not released actually, and that is there is a procedure to not release the post-mortem report, because the defendant side can actually use the weak points from the post-mortem report and change their statements to in fact defend themselves. So that is the set procedure. However, it is likely that like in the other cases, the post-mortem report may get leaked here as well, and that in fact that remains to be seen. However, the people were adamant on trying to find out more that what exactly happened, and to know that the only way is the post-mortem report. Right now, what we know from the preliminary report is that Ankita Bhandari died of drowning. However, there were injury marks on her body, but a final post-mortem report will establish that whether there was some other angle to it, whether there was some sexual assault angle to it, and what exactly happened. That can only be revealed by the post-mortem report. Everyone is waiting for that, and that is the most important thing right now as far as this particular case is concerned, because that is going to establish, and that is going to in fact solidify the case against the accused Pulkit Arya and his 2 other accomplices. The Uttarakhand government in fact has started a lot of action against these kind of resorts and spas that are functioning in Rishikesh. However, it is still a big question that were the government officials, were the police officials not aware of these kind of businesses, flesh trades running in the holy city of Rishikesh, that is where a lot of pilgrims come in each and every Kumbh Mela. So that is the most important point here. And right now, even though it's quiet here in Srinagar, but there is a lot of anger among the people, because just after the cremation, it's not just about Ankita, as people are saying that now with these kind of cases on the rise in states like Uttarakhand, people will be very afraid to send their children, send their daughters out to study, out for jobs. So that in fact, so the accused, the murderers not only have destroyed one family, people here are saying that they have destroyed dreams of many girls who aspire to go out of their homes and become independent, become self-sufficient, and that these kind of crimes will come in the way of that.
Right, Akshay, because it's been, very disturbing to see those messages that she exchanged with friends where she talks about how she's being pressurized into prostitution and she's like, I don't want to do it. And clearly there was a lot of pressure on her, and that is something that has also led to a lot of outrage. And as you said, this is going to have a far-reaching impact among the young girls, and there've also been and there's also fears that given that Pulkit belongs to this very powerful family, yes, the father and brother have been removed from the BJP, but once the attention from this case moves on, there could be attempts to scuttle it.
Well, absolutely. Pulkit comes from a very influential family in the state of Uttarakhand. His father, as we have seen, has been defending him. He has been calling him a Sida Sada businessman. So it is highly unlikely that people will trust the claims of the government that is run by the same party, which in fact had people like Ankit Arya and people like Pulkit Arya's father Vinod Arya, who it's highly unlikely, and it's bizarre to say that the father and the brother did not know the kind of businesses that were being run, the kind of behavior that their son had, and if that is the case, then it is a huge flaw as far as the police system here is concerned, because in state of Uttarakhand and other hilly states, there is still a revenue police system going on that dates back to the British era, and that needs to be changed in order to establish law and order here in states, and especially in the remote areas of Uttarakhand.
Right. Thanks so much, Akshay, for joining us there with the latest. Now, 2 audio clips have also emerged in the case that may help further implicate the prime accused Pulkit Arya.
These tapes actually reportedly bear conversations between the murdered woman's close friend Pushp and Pulkit, who's the son of a former BJP minister. From what he says in these tapes, it seems Pulkit was trying to cover up his role in the crime and mislead this investigation.
हेलो हाँ जी
हाँ, मेरी उनसे बात हो गई है सौरभ जी से।
क्या कह रहे हैं?
कुछ नहीं बोल रहे कि मैं सर्च तो कर रहा हूँ, अभी मिल नहीं रहे है ना यहाँ पे कहीं पे भी।
अच्छा
हाँ, अच्छा मेरे को एक बात बताइए।
हाँ,
आपका फोन क्यों लिया था उन्होंने?
मेरा फोन, उसका फोन स्विच ऑफ हो गया था, बैटरी डाउन हो गई थी उसकी, उसे तुमसे बात करनी थी। जब मैंने आपको फोन किया था ना
9 बजे।
हाँ, जब मैंने आपको लास्ट टाइम पे फोन किया था,
हाँ जी,
तो उस टाइम पे वो मेरे साथ ही थी और उसने मेरे से मेरा फोन लिया, और उसके बाद फिर मैंने उसे कहा कि फोन दे दे। उसने कहा कि मैं आपको मॉर्निंग में दे दूंगी फोन,
और आपने दे दिया?
भाई मेरे फोन में मुझे रात में क्या करना था फोन का?
अच्छा जी, ठीक है, चलो कोई बात नहीं।
रात में मुझे फोन का क्या करना था? मेरा फोन तो उसी के पास था
रात को।
हाँ,
तो मेरे को तो फोन तो नहीं किया उन्होंने।
क्या?
मेरे को फोन नहीं किया फिर भी।
अच्छा,
उल्टा मैंने 3 बार किया, उन्होंने उठाया नहीं, फिर ऐसा कैसे हो सकता है बताइए?
भाई देखो, तुम्हारी क्या बात?
अगर आपका फोन उनके पास है और मैं 3 बार रात को कॉल कर रहा हूँ, तो
मेरे फोन पे भी किया आपने?
हाँ, आपके फोन पे।
तो मेरा फोन भी घंटी बजी?
हाँ जी।
और मेरा फोन घंटी बजी और मेरा फोन भी नहीं उठाया?
नहीं, मैं वही कह रहा हूँ। ये रात की बात है, कोई 10:30
कितने बजे?
10 साढ़े 10 बजे की बात है।
10:30 बजे तक तो हम लोग सो रहे थे हमारे रिसोर्ट में।
अच्छा,
10:30 बजे तक तो हम वहाँ पे लगभग ये मान के चलो 9 बजे तक हम रिसोर्ट में थे। उसको खाना सर्व किया, खाना खाया उसने।
खाना खाया था?
हाँ, खाना उसको सर्व किया था
रात को।
हाँ।
कब?
हम अपने लगभग 9 बजे करीब।
9 बजे के करीब जब आप वापिस आए थे?
हाँ।
देखिए, जब आप बाहर थे ना,
हाँ,
तब मेरी लास्ट टाइम बात हुई थी। उसके बाद आके सिर्फ आपका फोन आया था मुझे।
अच्छा।
उसके बाद से उनका फोन बंद है और अभी तक बंद ही है।
तो मैं वही तो कह रहा हूँ ना, मैं तो उसके बाद सीधा वहाँ आया रिसोर्ट में, और मैंने रिसोर्ट में अपना वहीं रुका। हाँ। सुबह निकला मैं रिसोर्ट से 6 बजे करीब।
अभी आपका फोन मिला? नहीं मिला अभी तक?
ना, अभी नहीं मिला फोन मेरा।
नहीं मिला
ना।
तो आप अपने फोन को सर्च कीजिए ना।
अरे भाई, मैंने सुबह उसको सौरभ को भेजा था ना अपने फोन को सर्च करने के लिए। मैंने सौरभ को बोला, मैंने कहा भास्कर को बोला, मैंने कहा सौरभ ऐसा है, वो अंकिता के रूम में मेरा फोन पड़ा हुआ है, उसे नॉक करके जो है ना मेरा फोन उठा करके चार्जिंग पे लगा दे। मैं अभी थोड़ी देर में पहुंच रहा हूँ रिसोर्ट में। तो उसने मेरे को बोला कि भैया, उसने सौरभ को भेजा, उसने बोला भैया वो तो रूम में नहीं है। मैंने कहा अच्छा। और उसका सामान वगैरह कह रहा हूँ, सामान सब रखा है उसका।
अच्छा, सीसीटीवी तो होंगे ना
प्रॉपर्टी के?
हाँ,
चेक करता हूँ मैं सीसीटीवी क्या है, क्या चल रहे हैं, क्या है, क्या स्थिति है।
नहीं चलते तो होंगे, ऐसा थोड़ी ना कि नहीं चलते होंगे, सीसीटीवी पे
ऐसा
चलते
है,
होंगे।
देखो पुष्प,
हाँ जी बोलिए।
मेरे साथ ना, मैं आपसे ज्यादा जिम्मेदार व्यक्ति हूँ, समझ रहे हैं आप?
नहीं मुझे पता है आप
ठीक
पे
है?
ज्यादा जिम्मेदारी है।
और मुझे ना मतलब क्या बोलते हैं, ये सब सिनेरियो ना मुझे कचोट रहा है, मतलब मुझे समझ में बात नहीं आ रही कि क्या आपके साथ तो नहीं है वो, मुझे सच सच बात ये बताइए।
सर ऐसा होता तो मुझे आपको कॉल करने की क्या जरूरत थी, बताइए।
कल वो क्या बोलते हैं, कल शाम को भी वो यूं बोल रही थी कि मैं जा रही हूँ यहाँ से।
हाँ वो तो मेरे को बोला था उन्होंने कि मैं थोड़ा ऐसे परेशान हूँ।
मेरे को बोला उसने कि मैं जा रही हूँ यहाँ से। मैंने कहा तू कहाँ जाएगी? कह रही मेरे को कुछ पता नहीं है मैं कहाँ जाऊंगी, लेकिन मैं कहीं भी चली जाऊँ। मैंने कहा क्या दिक्कत आ रही है बता मेरे को। बस कुछ माइंड अपसेट था, इसीलिए मैंने आपको इन्फॉर्म किया था रात को। मैंने कहा यार देखो, ये हम यहाँ व्यापार करने के लिए बैठे हैं, बिजनेस करने के लिए बैठे हैं, ना तो वो मेरी कोई रिलेटिव है, ना मेरा उसके साथ में कोई आगे भविष्य में कोई फ्यूचर है। ठीक है, मैं उसको अपॉइंट किया इसलिए कि ताकि वो यहाँ पर 2 अच्छे काम कर सके। तो वो काम तो खैर क्या ही कर रही है, ऊपर से मेरे को डिस्ट्रक्शन बहुत ज्यादा दे रही है।
क्या
डिस्टर्बेंस बहुत ज्यादा है।
क्या डिस्टर्बेंस मतलब?
अरे डिस्टर्बेंस मतलब जितनी उससे हमारी अपेक्षाएं हैं कि वो जिस तरीके से वो काम कर लेती है, वो उतना कुछ भी नहीं। 24 घंटे उसका मन खराब रहता है, 24 घंटे उसका मूड खराब रहता है। आधे टाइम वो आपसे बात करती है, आधे टाइम वो क्या बोलते हैं स्टाफ के, कभी किसी से बात करती है, कभी किसी से बात करिए, पूरे स्टाफ को लेकर के इधर उधर बैठती रहती है। 2-3 बार तो मैंने आपको ये बात बोली मैंने आपको। तो भाई हमारा तो क्या बोलते हैं, हम तो ये है कि उसको लेकर के बहुत ज्यादा मतलब ये, इसीलिए मैंने कल आपको फोन किया कि भाई आप अपनी कुछ प्लानिंग करो, इन्हें बोलो कि अपना ये कहीं पर शिफ्ट हो, कहीं पर अच्छी जगह यहाँ से प्लानिंग करो। क्योंकि वो कल
ये बात उनके सामने बोली थी आपने?
नहीं, ये बात उनके सामने बोली थी नहीं बोली थी ये नहीं मेरे को पता। वो रूम में थी, मैं बाहर था।
ओके ठीक है।
जिस टाइम पे
उनका मिलना बहुत जरूरी है, आपको पता है ना, सीरियस मैटर है।
हाँ, तुमसे ज्यादा इस बात की मेरे को चिंता है क्योंकि वो
यहाँ घर वाले छोड़ के गए हैं आपके पास।
हाँ, मेरे यहाँ से उसकी मिसिंग हुई है, कहाँ गई है क्या नहीं गई है वो मेरी ज्यादा जिम्मेदारी बनती है। तो आप मुझे भी मेरा काम करने दो, अभी देखता हूँ मैं कहीं ना कहीं से क्या है, कुछ ना कुछ निकालेंगे उसका रिजल्ट।
हाँ देखिए अभी तो चलो ठीक है, मगर शाम तक ये बहुत बड़ा मैटर बन जाएगा।
All right, so quite a chilling conversation there, Parma, especially now that we know the indications of what happened.
Right, Gargi, this horrific murder has also put the spotlight on the unfettered construction and the boom of hotels and resorts in this tourism-dependent hill town. Now, many residents are now questioning the wisdom behind unchecked growth of tourism. In fact, NDTV Sarah Jacobs spoke with Dehradun-based activist Anup Nautiyal. Let's listen in.
Well, joining us now, we are trying to speak with the voices of Uttarakhand, the Aam Aadmi of Uttarakhand, the sons of the soil, and we have one such resident who has lived here for many, many years. Anup Nautiyal. Anup, you've been tweeting about this episode, and I'm going to quote one of your tweets. You say, we must be wary of the many resorts, spas, hotels and eateries opening up in the garb of tourism promotion. Our state does not need this. This is suicidal for our Devbhumi. Amongst us, you've had other tweets. What do you mean by these tweets, and what message are you trying to send out?
So, Sarah, before I start, my very, very sincere and deep condolences with the family of Ankita. And, of course, we can imagine how crestfallen their family must be with this horrific tragedy. Coming to this particular tweet that you mentioned, of course, we all know that that tourism is the economic mainstay for Uttarakhand, and a lot of what happens around our identity, around our economy, is centered around tourism. Now, what we have seen in the last several years, and especially with this very, very unfortunate and very sad tragedy of Ankita, this is coming into the forefront with the kind of, whether we call it development or the kind of tourism model that is emerging in Uttarakhand, with all these resorts. And also, in fact, one old tweet of mine got pulled out today, which is, I wrote that about 20 odd months ago. And you will be surprised, sitting here in Dehradun, in a small town like Dehradun, that there are apparently 10,000 spas here. So can you imagine that? And if this number is correct, the 10,000 spas in a city the size of Dehradun. So this entire model of tourism which is emerging based on resorts which are largely illegal on encroached land, built on this whole nexus of either the political leadership or the administrative class or builder or whoever is pumping in his or her black money, and this entire nexus of sleaze and drugs and what you have. So I think that, from the standpoint of many people here in Uttarakhand who care deeply about the state, this is a matter of immense concern with, with this whole phenomena, which has surged in the last couple of years.
News from Assam, where Assam Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sarma has denied allegations by two activists that he, Sadhguru, Jaggi, Vasudev and Tourism Minister Jayanta, Malla, Baruah broke the wildlife protection laws by entering Kaziranga National Park for a night safari.
Two activists in Assam have filed a police complaint against Sadhguru, Mr. Sarma and Mr. Baruah, alleging they entered the national park, home of the Indian one-horned rhino by the way, much beyond the scheduled visit time on Saturday.
In fact, the activists claim the Wildlife Protection Act bans safari tours inside the national park after scheduled time to protect the animals and keep their habitat relatively untouched.
Videos on social media and local channels show Sadhguru driving an open safari SUV along with Mr. Sarma and Mr. Baruah. A police officer said no first information report has been filed, but they have started initial investigation.
Well, let's go across to Ratnadeep now for more. And Ratnadeep, this is, a very known thing that you cannot take a safari or, this kind of joyride in the national park after the evening, and also the fact that it seems Sadhguru is driving in the national park. He is the one who's driving that safari is also something that's quite controversial.
That's correct. In fact, this happened on last Saturday when Sadhguru Jaggi Vasudev was invited to Kaziranga National Park, where the state government had organized a Chintan Shivir, where apart from Sadhguru, Shri Ravi Shankar was also present. And the Chintan Shivir has been held by the state government to actually find out a roadmap in terms of how the development works in the state should be carried on. And on the sidelines on that evening, actually Sadhguru and the Chief Minister together, they basically officially inaugurated the park for tourism for this season, although it is not opened up for tourists. And as a part of it, you can see those visuals where Sadhguru is seen driving inside the national park with the Chief Minister and the Tourism Minister. Now, two activists, Soneshwar Nara and Praveen Pegu, they went to the local police station there in Bokakhat, and they have lodged this complaint. Police is yet to register it in the form of a formal FIR. That's what a senior police official told us over phone. But they said that they have received this complaint and they have started their initial investigation. Now, the allegation in the police complaint is that the rules of the Wildlife Protection Act have been violated by the VVIPs here. And police says that they will see if the allegations are correct or not. However, Chief Minister did speak to media last evening, and he claimed that there is no violation because he cited the same Wildlife Protection Act, saying that the wildlife warden has the jurisdiction of issuing permission, and if the wildlife warden of the state issues permission, then anybody can enter the park even at night.
Right, Ratnadeep. So the Chief Minister denying that this was a violation of the Wildlife Protection Act, but has there been a response from Sadhguru's Isha Foundation yet?
Well, we did try to reach out to Isha Foundation. We had sent out emails as well, which we are yet to receive any reply to those emails. But as of now, there is no response from Sadhguru's Isha Foundation. Remember, the Assam government and Sadhguru's Isha Foundation has also signed a MOU for a soil conservation project in Assam. So even in social media, a section of journalists, intellectuals have criticized this, the fact that the Sadhguru and the Chief Minister actually took an evening safari. Many saying that it was a bad optics. But the Chief Minister clearly yesterday while talking to media, clearly saying that his intention of inviting Sadhguru, or that for that matter of fact, Shri Ravi Shankar, is also to boost tourism, because what he feels that these spiritual gurus have huge following across the world, and when they talk about Kaziranga, this will also in a way promote Kaziranga as a tourist destination. And that is the reason why they are trying to promote Kaziranga, and the Chief Minister clearly denies that there is any violation of Wildlife Protection Act.
Right. Thanks so much, Ratnadi, for joining us with those details.
Tragic news coming in from Himachal Pradesh, Gargi. As many as 7 people were killed and 10 others were injured after a tourist vehicle fell from a cliff on a national highway in Kullu's Jaggi area.
Now, all the injured admitted to hospital for treatment. It was near Jaggi that the driver of the tempo traveller reportedly lost control over the vehicle, and then it rolled down a gorge, killing 7. News from the northeast and from Arunachal, where the guard wall of a mega dam project collapsed due to heavy rain. The guard wall was a part of the hydroelectric project.
2 of the 5 tunnels of the hydroelectric project have been shut down by the NHPC to avoid inundation in the downstream areas of the Subansiri River in the Lakhimpur district.
Right, so there you can see visuals of that dam, and this is also a project over which a lot of environmentalists are not very happy. It's going to lead to, a lot of the forest areas also being affected, and you can see a guard wall of that dam had collapsed. Right, in other news now, senior lawyer Mukul Rohatgi has declined the centre's offer to return as the Attorney General of India. That's the government's top lawyer, and this according to sources.
Right, Mukul Rohatgi had stepped down back in 2017 as the Attorney General, and KK Venugopal had succeeded him. Mr. Venugopal's extended tenure, though, ends on the 30th of September in just another 4 days. He served as the centre's top law officer for the last 5 years.
The central government had proposed Mukul Rohatgi to become the Attorney General again, which was accepted by him. His second stint was to begin on the 1st of October, but now reports that he has declined.
The last rites of the 19-year-old Ankita Bhandari, who was killed by being pushed into a canal in Uttarakhand's Rishikesh, were performed on Sunday amid huge protests and outrage.
That's right. She was cremated in Srinagar, there in Pauri Garhwal, and there you can see there were protests as well. Initially, the family had refused to cremate her till they got the final post-mortem report. Now, Ankita was an employee at a resort owned by a former BJP leader, Vinod Arya's son, Pulkit Arya, and her body was recovered from the Chila barrage on Saturday morning. Pulkit and 2 other employees of the resort have been arrested in this case, and the father and brother of Pulkit, in fact, after that, they were removed from the BJP, and there are reports and there are also WhatsApp messages that Ankita had shared with friends and family, in which she had indicated she was being pushed into prostitution, that she was being asked to give special favors at the resort where she was a receptionist, and she said she was resisting this.
Right, this horrific murder has also put the spotlight on the unfettered construction as well as the boom of hotels and resorts in this tourism-dependent hill town. Now, many residents are now questioning the wisdom behind unchecked growth of tourism. In fact, our colleague Sarah Jacobs spoke with Dehradun-based activist Anup Nautiyal. Let's listen in.
Well, joining us now, we are trying to speak with the voices of Uttarakhand, the Aam Aadmi of Uttarakhand, the sons of the soil, and we have one such resident who has lived here for many, many years. Anup Nautiyal. Anup, you've been tweeting about this episode, and I'm going to quote one of your tweets. You say, we must be wary of the many resorts, spas, hotels and eateries opening up in the garb of tourism promotion. Our state does not need this. This is suicidal for our Devbhumi. Amongst us, you've had other tweets. What do you mean by these tweets, and what message are you trying to send out?
So, Sarah, before I start, my very, very sincere and deep condolences with the family of Ankita. And, of course, we can imagine how crestfallen their family must be with this horrific tragedy. Coming to this particular tweet that you mentioned, of course, we all know that that tourism is the economic mainstay for Uttarakhand, And a lot of what happens around our identity, around our economy is centered around tourism. Now, what we have seen in the last several years, and especially with this very, very unfortunate and very sad tragedy of Ankita, this is coming into the forefront with the kind of, whether we call it development or the kind of tourism model that is emerging in Uttarakhand, with all these resorts. And also, in fact, one old tweet of mine got pulled out today, which is, I wrote that about 20 odd months ago. And you will be surprised, sitting here in Dehradun, in a small town like Dehradun, that there are apparently 10,000 spas here. So can you imagine that, and if this number is correct, that 10,000 spas in a city the size of Dehradun. So this entire model of tourism, which is emerging based on resorts, which are largely illegal, on encroached land, built on this whole nexus of, either the political leadership or the administrative class or, builder or whoever, is pumping in his or her black money. And this entire nexus of sleaze and, drugs and what you have. So I think that, from the standpoint of many people here in Uttarakhand who care deeply about the state, this is a matter of immense concern with, with this whole phenomena, which has surged in the last couple of years.
A full-blown crisis for the Congress in Rajasthan. Over 90 MLAs of the Ashok Gehlot camp demand the next Chief Minister of the state must be from the loyalists, and decision only after the 19th of October. Also submit their resignations to the Speaker in protest.
Last rites of 19-year-old Ankita Bhandari, who was allegedly killed in Uttarakhand's Rishikesh, were performed on Sunday amid huge protests. The preliminary autopsy suggests injury to her head before drowning.
Complaint filed against the Assam Chief Minister and Sadhguru for allegedly violating wildlife laws with a late-night safari through Kaziranga National Park. The Chief Minister has denied any violation.
Sources say senior lawyer Mukul Rohatgi has declined the centre's offer to return as the Attorney General of India, the government's top lawyer.
After Jacqueline Fernandez to appear in Patiala House Court today, she's an accused in the Sukesh Chandrasekhar case and has been charged with money laundering. Hello and welcome. You're watching Good Morning India. I'm Gargi Rawat.
I'm Parmeshwar Bava. The top story we're tracking this morning is the Congress fiasco unfolding currently.
That's right. In late-night developments amid escalating political crisis in Rajasthan, the question of the next Chief Minister has turned into a full-blown crisis. Over 90 MLAs of the Ashok Gehlot camp are in protest mode and had a meeting with the Speaker yesterday, claiming they even want to resign.
In fact, Gargi and MLA told reporters, "We want Ashok Gehlot as the Chief Minister," indicating that they are expecting concessions from the central leadership on their one-man, one-post issue. The alternative is a Gehlot loyalist in the top post, instead of the Chief Minister's arch-rival Sachin Pilot, said to be the central leader's choice.
Now, sources said the party high command is extremely upset, and party chief Sonia Gandhi has tasked the central leaders with resolving this issue, and they'll have these one-on-one meetings with MLAs. Let's go across to Harsha now for more on that. And Harsha, are these meetings expected today? Take us through all these developments, and also Ashok Gehlot telling the central, the high command in Delhi that this is all out of his hands and the MLAs are, acting on their own. But tell us more about what's expected today.
Well, the meeting, one-to-one meeting with the central party observers is very, very unlikely, Gargi. I just spoke to a senior MLA. In fact, I spoke to Pratap Singh Khacharyawaz, who had gone in with, Mahesh Joshi and with Shanti Dhariwal to meet the Chief Minister and to meet the central party observers who were actually in a meeting with the Chief Minister and with Sachin Pilot late last night. And I asked him that what's going to happen. The Central High Command is keen to meet MLAs one-to-one. So he said उनका सम्मान है, ऐसा कुछ नहीं है कि हम उनसे मिलना नहीं चाहते हैं, लेकिन क्योंकि कल रात को लेट हो गया था, so a lot of these MLAs went home, like we reported last night. They went home, and mainly what they conveyed was that, till the Congress presidential election is not over, they don't want to have a CLP. And the second demand is very clear, that the Chief Minister should be from those 102 MLAs who stood by the government, the loyalists who stood by the government when Operation Lotus was underway. They term it Operation Lotus, was underway in Rajasthan in 2020. But having said that, Pratap Singh Khachariawaz said, look, we are not against meeting the central observers. Of course we will meet, but today is Navratra. A lot of the MLAs have gone back home because, it's a day when everyone does sthapna and puja in their house, and they will meet the will meet the central observers. Nobody is against that. But when that will happen, he did not give a timeline. So it's absolutely possible that the central observers could actually be going back today. And then they will take it from there, as a lot of the MLAs are not in Jaipur. In fact, today, a lot of them have gone back to their homes, which is actually in their constituencies. Gargi.
Right, Harsha. Also, Ashok Gehlot had several meetings with Sonia Gandhi. He must have made these new demands that weren't accepted back then, leading to this crisis.
Well, exactly what happened between Mrs. Gandhi and Mr. Gehlot, I perhaps may not be in a position to comment, but I can tell you one thing, that Mr. Gehlot was always, though he did say later on that the media is interpreting it any way he wants, he may not have been averse to running for Congress president, but he definitely did not want Mr. Pilot here in the chair in his place. That's very, very clear. And the reason is that he said that, that time his government almost toppled and he cannot hand it to Mr. Pilot. So his take always was two things. One, he said that either he retains the chief ministership chair till a transition to power happens, and that happens under his aegis, and he will hand it over probably to someone like the MLAs are now demanding, either Mr. C.P. Joshi or Mr. B.D. Kalla or even Govind Singh Dotasra, or someone who's from among the loyalists who stood by the government during the rebellion of 2020. And now, that was one thing that he always conveyed to everybody in the Congress. And of course, the fact that he is running for Congress president, he may have initially been reluctant, but like he said that he will go ahead and do that. But who takes over in Rajasthan? That was perhaps a more critical question, and that was the unresolved question, which we now see has blown out into an all-out, full-fledged, perhaps one could call it rebellion also.
That's right, and Harsha, it's in the Congress's favor to just go ahead and quickly resolve this entire crisis instead of letting it carry on. And but you're telling us that the MLAs possibly won't meet the senior leaders today, and tell them what they want and their thoughts. So it might go on for a few more days now.
Well, it definitely looks like that, Gargi, because when I spoke to the senior MLAs last night and this morning, in fact, I was given to understand that even the Congress observers were willing to, in fact, stay up at night and meet the MLAs last night itself, but they all went home. They said it was very late, and the information that we were getting from our reporters in Delhi was that, Mr. Ajay Makan and Mr. Kharge were willing to sit out at the Chief Minister's residence and keep meeting MLAs, but actually all of them went home. And being Navratra, like I was telling you, Rajasthan is still a very traditional state. So a lot of the MLAs have gone back home. So it's not that they're saying they will not meet the central leadership, central observers. They're not saying that. But like I'm saying, it's very unlikely that that will happen today. So the fact that we are hearing that Mr. Kharge and Mr. Makan may just go back to Delhi, that's a very, very, that's actually a likelihood for today. And it looks like this thing is going to be drawn out for a few days more, definitely.
Right, Harsha, as always, thank you so much for joining us with the latest details. We also spoke to Sunil Prabhu for more on this crisis in the Congress. Let's listen into his report.
A veteran like Mr. Ashok Gehlot definitely wants to send a message loud and clear, and in particular to Sachin Pilot, that he is not going to give it to him on a platter. Giving up the Chief Minister's post is something that is a difficult decision. But while he will give it up for the post of the Congress president, for which he is going to contest now, the issue is that the views of the MLAs need to be ascertained. And that's what the High Command has asked the two observers, Mr. Kharge as well as Mr. Ajay Makan, to ascertain the views of the MLAs. It's not going to be easy. And as is pointed out by Harsha, there are nearly 90 MLAs who have exercised their viewpoint, which cannot be ignored. These are clearly, you call it a pressure tactic, or you call it an attempt to send a message, but definitely they want to see one way or the other that whoever becomes the Chief Minister must have the support of the incoming Congress President, in this case Mr. Ashok Gehlot, when he does contest the election, and really not somebody who's going to be inimical. As you are well aware, the High Command has always followed, and yes, as Harsha is pointing out, it hasn't gone as per script, but they will always, and this has been Sonia Gandhi's USP, to get the views of the MLAs before deciding on a particular candidate. Yes, Mr. Sachin Pilot has been keen to become Chief Minister. He has made no bones about it, not once, but at least 3 or 4 times. But of course, those incidents that have taken place make those MLAs try to put in pressure. And this is, of course, at the behest of Mr. Ashok Gehlot. And definitely, all this will have to be taken into account. But definitely, for Sonia Gandhi, it's a difficult situation. But she will wait for that report to be given by the MLAs, where one by one, each MLA will be asked to give their choice to Mr. Karge as well as Mr. Ajay Makhan before a final decision is taken on who will be the next Chief Minister of Rajasthan.
All right, and the BJP having a lot of fun out of this crisis facing the Congress in Rajasthan, and they've even tweeted some digs at the Congress.
Amid speculation on whether the Gehlot loyalist MLAs will be taken away to a resort, the BJP's Union Minister Bhupendra Yadav tweeted an old photograph of Gehlot and Pilot flanking Rahul Gandhi. The photo was tweeted by Rahul 4 years ago, the day he persuaded Pilot, then a contender for the Chief Minister post, to accept the role of Gehlot's deputy.
That's right, and they've taunted Rahul, please get them to join first, bring them together first, and that is a dig at Rahul Gandhi's Bharat Jodo Yatra, which he's leading. And there you can see visuals of Rahul Gandhi walking on that Bharat Jodo Yatra. So the BJP taking a dig, saying bring your leaders together first.
With that, we're stepping into a very short break.
And on the other side, we'll get to the latest into the investigations in Ankita's murder in Uttarakhand. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now developing news coming in from Rajasthan that the Congress MLAs are unlikely to meet the central observers. That's what sources have told NDTV. Remember, there had been the central observers who were there. That's Makhan, Venugopal and Mallikarjun Kharge had been tasked by Sonia Gandhi to speak to all the MLAs, over 90 MLAs who are supporting Ashok Gehlot and saying they will not accept a chief minister who is not from the loyalists, and they also want the new chief minister of Rajasthan who will, take Ashok Gehlot's place should Ashok Gehlot become the president of the Congress party. That should be decided only after the 19th of October, which is when that decision will be announced on the new Congress president. So these MLAs are now unlikely to meet Makhan, Venugopal or Kharge, who are set to return today. They're not going to stay camped there in Jaipur. They will return. It is also the Navratri season now, and most of the MLAs need to go home for the Navratri festival. So it seems that this crisis is not going to get resolved just yet, though the MLAs have made their demands very clear about, the chief minister only after the 19th of October, and it has to be from the loyalists. Well, let's go across to Harsha now for more. So Harsha, today the central leaders, those are the representatives who've been sent there to resolve this entire issue and to be observers at that meeting yesterday, they're set to return, won't be meeting with the MLAs.
Yes, Gargi, it doesn't look like that meeting is going to happen today. It didn't happen last night also, though we were prepared. We were told that the MLAs were ready to meet. Kharge and Mr. Mallikarjun Kharge and Mr. Ajay Makhan were ready to meet the MLAs. But, the MLAs then went off home and they told us that, their demand yesterday was that till the presidential elections don't happen, we don't want to have a CNP meeting. Their other demand was that, the out of the loyalists, somebody should be made chief minister. That was the demand. And they said they're not wanting this one line, leaving it to Congress president. I don't think they're too happy with that. But so that was that. And then this morning, I spoke to several MLAs. And in fact, they all said because of Navratras, we've gone home. That meeting, I mean, they are saying they're not an all-out rebellion in the sense they're not saying they will not meet Congress observers, but they said today is unlikely because everyone's going back to their constituencies. So yes, it's true that now Mr. Kharge and Mr. Makan have no choice but to return, and the MLAs will at least not meet them today. They may meet them tomorrow, but they will not meet them today, Kharge.
Harsha, but on the other hand, if the MLAs have made their stand pretty clear, they've said, all these developments that happened yesterday, and what emerged from that was that they want the Chief Minister to be announced only after the 19th of October, which is 19th is when the new Congress president will be announced, and that whoever and should Ashok Gehlot become president, then whoever replaces him has to be from the 100 MLAs who were the loyalists who stood by Ashok Gehlot at the time when Sachin Pilot was trying to topple his government. So in that sense, these MLAs have made those demands pretty clear.
They actually have, Gargi, but like we are saying, it'll be a back and forth. I mean, they will say this, and the MLA, the High Command may say something else. So that's what the stand is as of now. Because you see, the interesting thing is they are not saying we won't talk; they're just saying we won't talk today. So as of now, that is the stand of the Congress MLAs in Rajasthan.
Right, Harsha, and also, Ashok Gehlot telling the central leadership it's out of his hands. That's also been very interesting. He said it's the MLAs who are now, angry over this, and they're the ones who are acting, and that it's out of his hands. He's also met the central leadership a few times before yesterday, and one would imagine that he must have, made his desires clear then, that the fact that he's totally against Sachin Pilot taking over, but that must have been something that wasn't acceptable. We were expecting yesterday morning when you were speaking to you, said they're going to pass a resolution leaving whoever becomes the next chief minister that decision to Sonia Gandhi.
That was always he'd always conveyed it, that he wasn't comfortable with Sachin. That had been conveyed, I think, from the very beginning. So that, Gargi, is something we have been reporting. But yes, now let's see how it plays out.
All right, Harsha, thanks so much for joining us with those details. So today that meeting will not take place between the Congress Central Observers who'd been sent by Sonia Gandhi to meet with all the MLAs, and they had wanted that the Central Observers talk to all the MLAs and then a final decision would be taken. But Harsha telling us that's not going to happen today since the Navratras have started and the MLAs will be returning home. It's not like they're against meeting the Central Observers. It's just that it will not happen right now. So those observers have now gone back to Delhi, and for the moment the crisis in the Congress in Rajasthan continues. Well, let's move on now to the other big story we've been tracking, and the murder of 19-year-old Ankita Bhandari in Uttarakhand. Now, she was allegedly murdered and her body recovered from a canal in Rishikesh. Her final rites were performed yesterday in Pauri Garhwal's Srinagar, in Pauri Uttarakhand's Srinagar. And this amid huge protests and outrage. There were marches before that. Initially, the family had refused to perform the final rites as they were demanding the final post-mortem report be given out, and only then they would perform the final rites, but they finally did take place yesterday. Ankita was a receptionist at a resort in Rishikesh owned by BJP leader Vinod Arya's son Pulkit Arya. Vinod Arya has now been removed from the BJP. Her body was recovered from the Chila barrage on Saturday morning, a few days after she had been reported missing. Pulkit and two other employees of the resort have been arrested in this case, and reports suggest that Ankita was being pushed into prostitution at the resort, something that she was resisting. This has become clear in messages that she exchanged with friends, where she said that they're trying to, push me into prostitution, that offers extra perks at the resort, and she wasn't going to be doing it. Now, the draft report, the preliminary post-mortem report that was released by AIIMS Rishikesh, has said there are injuries on her body before death, suggesting a blunt force trauma, and that she, however, did die of drowning in the canal. Remember, her body was fished out of the canal. Now, one of the major points of contention for protesters who blocked a highway in Uttarakhand for hours yesterday was demanding justice for Ankita, and is also the fact that the Uttarakhand authorities demolished parts of the Vanagaram resort, which is owned by Pulkit Arya, on Thursday night in an overnight action. the 19-year-old who's working as a receptionist at this resort before she was killed. The Uttarakhand police say they're investigating who ordered this demolition and why. The family have said that, it could be that evidence was destroyed in this demolition, though the police did say that they've taken away everything that they needed. And the BJP spokesperson for Uttarakhand has denied that the demolition took place. NDTV Sarah Jacob does a fact check on the ground.
Here in Puri, protesters demanding justice for Ankita are incensed that the resort where she worked in as a receptionist has been demolished. They point out that this building was demolished in an overnight action by the authorities, and they say the motive behind this demolition was to tamper with and to destroy evidence. They're absolutely furious because they point out that this is a crime scene that is still being investigated, and the expectation is that it should be cordoned off and kept safe by the police and not demolished.
मैंने कहा, मुख्यमंत्री जी ने कहा कि वो जो पूरा एरिया है आप इसकी जांच कर सकते हैं, मौके पे साइट पे जा सकते हैं उस रिसोर्ट में, जहां पे लड़की रहती थी, जहां पे ये गंदी घटना घटी है, उसके साथ अत्याचार हुआ, उस पूरे एरिया को सील किया गया है, उसमें कहीं कोई तोड़फोड़ नहीं। एक बात, दूसरा मैं कह रहा हूं अगर ये गलत साबित हुआ तो मैं रिजाइन कर दूंगा।
Speaking to NDTV, Shadab Shams, the spokesperson for the BJP in Uttarakhand and a former Minister of State, took on irate and anguished protesters and completely, vociferously, audaciously denied what they were saying, that this resort has been demolished. Instead of answering their questions as to why this had been demolished, he completely denied it. He in fact called them liars, saying that just the boundary wall of this resort had been demolished by the authorities. And so we came here to do a fact check. As you can see, this is a mattress lying out here. Rooms, bedrooms have been demolished. Those are wardrobes and closets that have been left open and empty. So the protesters are asking who is going to answer their many questions, who is going to take responsibility for ordering this demolition, who ordered this demolition, and will anybody be held accountable. In Puri with Osama and Sanjay Kaushik, Sarah Jacob, NDTV.
In other news now, actor Jacqueline Fernandez will be appearing in the Patiala House Court today at around 10 a.m. She is named as an accused in the Sukesh Chandrasekhar money laundering case. The Enforcement Directorate has submitted a charge sheet against her, and the court had taken cognizance of this and asked Jacqueline to appear today. She's been accused of accepting crores from Sukesh Chandrasekhar at a time when he was in Tihar jail and was being investigated for money laundering. So she's been named as an accused and is to appear in court today. Today not much is expected to happen perhaps in court, but it's a formality as she's now been named and accused by the ED. Let's go across to Vedant for more. And Vedant, what are we expecting in court today? And Jacqueline Fernandez, who over the last couple of weeks has emerged as an accused in this entire case, now summoned by the court to appear today.
Well, you were absolutely right, Gargi. Not much is expected in the court. It's a mere formality, as you said. But remember, the ED had filed a supplementary charge sheet before this Prevention of Money Laundering Court, and the Patiala House Court has in fact taken cognizance of that particular charge sheet. And remember, Jacqueline Fernandez is the only accused in that particular charge sheet. So in August was when the ED filed this supplementary charge sheet. So what exactly is the case for the benefit of our viewers quickly? So basically, the ED has alleged that Jacqueline Fernandez received gifts from Sukesh Chandrasekhar, conman Sukesh Chandrasekhar, and these gifts were purchased by him using illegal money that he had procured by, extortion, by cheating high-profile people like Ranbaxy promoters and Ranbaxy promoters and his wife. And the ED, remember, in April had attached funds worth over 7 crores of the actor, provisionally attached these funds, and also a cash of worth rupees 15 lakhs. So the ED has alleged that Jacqueline Fernandez received gifts worth rupees 5 crores, over 5 crores, and also her family received funds of over rupees 1 crore from Sukesh Chandrasekhar. And the ED has alleged that these are all proceeds of crime, because So Jacqueline Fernandez was well aware of the fact that Sukesh Chandrasekhar has had a criminal history, lodged in Tihar jail, and the ED alleged that she overlooked his criminal antecedents and continued to enjoy financial benefits from conman Sukesh Chandrasekhar, and they've called it proceeds of crime, and that she was knowingly party to this money laundering case.
All right, thanks so much, Vedant, for joining us with those details. In news from the northeast now, and Assam Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sarma has denied allegations by two activists that he and Sadhguru Jaggi Vasudev and Tourism Minister Jayanta Malla Baruah broke any wildlife protection law by entering Kaziranga National Park for a night safari. Two activists in Assam filed a police complaint against the three of them, alleging that they'd entered the national park, home of the Indian one-horned rhino, much beyond the scheduled visit time on Saturday. In fact, the activists claim that the Wildlife Protection Act banned safari tours inside the national park after the scheduled time to protect the animals. Videos on social media and local channels show Sadhguru, in fact, driving that open safari SUV along with Mr. Sarma and Baruah. A police officer said that while no FIR has been filed, they have started the initial investigation. Well, let's go across to Ratnadeep now for more. And Ratnadeep, these visuals of them on the night safari with Sadhguru even driving the vehicle has led to a lot of anger and outrage, and this complaint by the activists. But the Chief Minister has denied this and said it's up to the wildlife warden to allow the safaris to take place. Right, Ratnadeep, if you can hear me?
Yeah, in fact, the Chief Minister has said that, as per Wildlife Act, and he's also trying to quote the same Wildlife Act, and he's claiming that as per Wildlife Act, if the Wildlife Warden can issue permission for people to enter the park even at night. So he's denying that the Wildlife Protection Act has been violated, which is the allegation made in the police complaint filed by two local activists at Bokakhar police station, which is a police station under which the Kaziranga National Park falls in the Golaghat district. Now the allegations are that Sadhguru and the Assam Chief Minister and his Tourism Minister had violated the Wildlife Protection Act and had entered the park after stipulated timing, but the Chief Minister citing provisions of special order that the Wildlife Warden can issue. Now, Sadhguru was invited at Kaziranga to be part of a Chintan Shivir that the Assam government had organized to, chalk out a roadmap for how the development works in the state needs to be taken forward. And in the sidelines, they had gone to the national park, and so in those visuals you can see, apart from the VVIPs, there is a huge security presence, huge media presence as well inside the park. And now, although police says that there is no formal FIR, or they have not registered the FIR formally, but they have received the police complaint, and they would first do the initial probe, and if required, they would register the FIR later. So that's what police sources are telling us.
Ratnadeep, thanks so much for joining us with those details. News from Arunachal now, where the guard wall of a mega dam project collapsed due to heavy rainfall. The guard wall was part of a hydroelectric project there, something that is slightly controversial among environmentalists at least. Now, 2 of the 5 tunnels of the hydroelectric project have been shut down by the NHPC to avoid flooding in the downstream areas of the Subansiri River in the Lakhimpur district there in Arunachal Pradesh. As many as 7 people are killed and 10 others injured after a tourist vehicle fell from a cliff on a national highway in Kulu's Gihagi area. All the injured have been admitted to hospital for treatment. And news from Paris now, a billowing column of dark smoke towered over Paris on Sunday from a warehouse blaze at a massive produce market that supplies the French capital and surrounding regions with much of its fresh food. and bills itself the largest of its kind in the world. This wholesale market is a veritable town unto itself, with more than 12,000 people working there, and it warehouses fruit, vegetables, seafood, meats and dairy foods, as well as flowers from across France and the world.